What's fascinating about it is it's based around network effects. And the value of a network is based on the number of people that are active within the network. They're called nodes. Now, Bitcoin operates the same way, but it's a network of money. So people are very highly incentivized to bring new people into the network and let the network grow. So what is fascinating is if you look at the other great network effect that we had in recent years was the adoption of the internet from 1990 to 2000. Internet adoption in terms of number of people using the internet grew by 63% a year from 1990 to 2000. Cryptocurrencies in their first 10 years are growing at 113%. It's the fastest adoption of any technology in all recorded history. Look, it's an obvious thing, and I guess that's why Sam Bankman-Fried from FTX is a friend of mine. Is a sponsor of this. Is chess is all about living in the future and looking at the probabilities of outcomes. Right? There's no certainties in chess until you get to the end game. There's no certainties in cryptocurrencies. But what you're trying to do is play the game 5 or 10 steps ahead, which is what the very best chess players do. Anybody who tries to play in the present move is missing the bigger picture of where this is going. And cryptocurrencies are exactly the same, because if we're talking about an adoption of a new system, we need to kind of think where it's going, not what the price is doing today. Much like in chess, you might sacrifice a pawn for a particular strategic advantage. You also understand in crypto markets, we see volatility. And volatility is acceptable if it gives you the reward at the end, which is more adoption and prices rising higher and more use cases. So look, they're very, very similar in how you strategically approach them.
Yeah. And on that subject, what future changes do you envisage for cryptocurrencies, especially as it's such a young market?
I think it's going to be the biggest change in business models that any of us have ever seen. So forget the finance system. So, we've seen that we've got automated borrowing and lending called DeFi going on, and we've got different types of cryptocurrencies with different attributes, protocols they're called. And that's all okay, but for most of us, that doesn't really kind of touch our lives that much. We can, of course, invest in them. But what's really about to happen is everybody with a community or every business with a community is going to tokenize. We're going to create incentives that aren't driven around the platforms such as Facebook and Google, but in fact driven around the incentives of that community to drive value to that community, and everybody shares in it. This is a huge change. We're also going to tokenize assets, things like real estate. So a hugely expensive apartment in Manhattan, which none of us can afford, we can all have a share of. That's very different. So we're also going to tokenize most of the current financial markets as well, because it gives us this trusted ownership. And the other thing moving towards is we're all going to start living in a more digital future. I mean, there's no real reason why chess tournaments are physical. In the end, you can play them in an amazing metaverse environment. That's the digital world's environment. And all of these digital worlds where we're seeing gaming as a massive part of the future is all of those are tied together, tend to be tied together by blockchain technology as well. So it's a big, massive change for all of us, and probably one of the biggest changes we've ever faced. It's kind of an extension of the internet, but this is the internet of value, the exchange, the ownership, the trust of value. And that's a big, big difference.
And Raoul, a lot of our viewers, they're new to chess, but they're also new to crypto. Do you have any words of wisdom on just the first few steps they should take if they are interested into getting into that world?
I'm going to listen now.
Yeah, the idea is realize that this is not a short-term trading thing. So don't be tempted to try and make a quick buck. Think of it like the chess game, where you're playing a longer-term game. And the idea here is to slowly invest by, we call it dollar cost averaging. So you buy a bit every week or every month and just keep over time adding more to your trade. So you don't worry if it goes up and down in the short term because you're playing for the big picture. Also, tend to start with Bitcoin and probably Ethereum, because those are the ones you need to get to know first. Those are the big daddies of the space, the important protocols that have the most adoption. After that, you can learn about other areas. But that's how I'd approach it.